I stood in the mirror, taking it all in. My hair was pulled back, I had shiny new shoes, a crisp white doctor's coat, and a stethoscope draped around my neck. Yep, I looked the part, a naturopathic doctor, and I had been working for over a decade to achieve this title. So how come I just didn't feel the part? Let me back up for a moment. When I started this training in 2012, I truly believed it was a dream come true. I imagined myself immersed in fields of plants, meditating to the sounds of waterfalls, and wearing only twigs and leaves for clothes. Just kidding. But seriously, who doesn't love the title of naturopathic doctor? It holds some sort of prestige and admiration. And so I started this journey with a full heart. I promised myself that I would learn everything there was to know, gain the approval of many family and friends, and landed myself a top internship. I'll never forget the day when that shiny piece of paper arrived with bold black letters that said, ND. Around the same time, I got a piece of mail from a family friend who's a dentist. Inside the card, he wrote, "Dear Emily, congratulations and welcome to the club." I was part of an exclusive club? Whoa, what a feeling. And so every single day I would get up and put on the shoes, the coat, and the stethoscope because other people thought it was so amazing. Maybe you can relate to this. Maybe you have a skill, a certification, or status that other people think is so amazing. And you get so caught up in what other people think, you forget what you think about this all. After my first year in practice, something was not sitting right. I woke up every day with a feeling of bricks deep in my belly. And while I so badly wanted to embody the role of naturopathic doctor, I felt like I was dragging myself to work. But I kept going, seeing patients, filling my brain with so much knowledge, and taking detailed chart notes. While I loved one-to-one time with clients, everything else felt like mountains on my shoulders. My husband reflected back to me that I was barely laughing or smiling, and that the house felt really heavy when I was coming and going from work. This was new to me. I've spent most of my life as a pretty happy person. Maybe you can relate to this too. Maybe you've worked really hard for something and chased the goal, and you get there only to discover, the shoe doesn't exactly fit. Around 2017, it was Christmas, the holidays. I started sharing with friends and family that I was thinking of giving up my Doctor of Naturopathic license. After 5 intense years of school and 2 grueling board exams, people would look at me in disbelief and say, "All that work for nothing?" My face would go ghost white as I filled with shock, shame, and embarrassment, and then quickly tried to change the subject. Why were people so fixed on the fact that I was going to make a change? They were in love with the fact that my life plan was all set. Why would I ever jeopardize that? Do people often ask you, "What is your plan?" How does it make you feel? For me, I felt paralyzed. And so, as the opinions of others were swirling and swirling around my head, my own inner knowing was shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. I knew that I valued happiness over a title, but I wasn't yet brave enough to share that. So I just stuffed it deep in my belly where no one could find it. And I focused on my safety nets. My safety nets were follow the plan so nothing can go wrong, do what everyone else does, and appease others. You see, I had heard that 85% of people don't like their job, so maybe this was normal? The following year, I was still toying with the idea of giving away my naturopathic doctor license. There was something in my belly telling me to follow the good feelings, but then I would run into someone online, in person, in my head, and they would say, "Oh my goodness, you're a naturopathic doctor? How amazing!" And so I kept playing the part. In the summertime of 2018, something monumental happened. It was actually my honeymoon, and my husband and I decided to enroll in a weekend self-improvement course. Wild, I know. We were both facing a lot of stagnation in our personal and professional life, and we were looking for some inspiration. After the first day of the workshop, it was time to give one another some radically honest feedback about first impressions. Papers were handed around to the group. On each paper, you were supposed to write the person's name and then trust or do not trust. I nervously collected my papers at the end of the day and scurried out of the auditorium, so scared about what might be inside. I barely made it to the elevator before I frantically opened my papers. I scanned them with so much fear. I couldn't believe what I saw. 3 papers indicating do not trust. I was devastated. In fact, I cried in my room all night long. The next morning was a small breakfast with the coaches. I walked in with my head hung. "Emily, what's up?" the coach said. "I shouldn't be here. Nobody trusts me," I said. He looked me square in the eyes and said, "Emily, do you trust yourself?" Whoa. I did not. And so if you're currently thinking of quitting something, ask yourself, do I trust myself? And just see what arises. The following year was known as the magic chapter. It was time to tune into my heart more than I ever have in my life and to learn what it meant to trust myself. You see, before it was all about pros and cons lists, and now it was just about a feeling. I knew that every day I sat at the desk to be a naturopathic doctor, I just didn't feel like me. And that's all I needed to know. You see, it didn't matter what Aunt Betty thought or what my childhood friend thought about my job, because they weren't living it day to day. It was time to stop outsourcing my power and to tune into my heart and my needs. And so, shortly after my first baby was born, it was time to muster up more courage than I have in my whole life. And I made the decision to freeze my Doctor of Naturopathic license. My husband started reflecting back to me that the house felt light again, that he could feel me returning to me. And so, I was almost there. It was almost time. But something that kept crossing my mind was, am I giving up? There's so much stigma around quitting. How would I know the difference? So I asked myself, is this fear? Maybe a little, but mostly I've become a very brave person. Wasn't fear. Was this laziness? No. I've worked multiple jobs at a time in my life to make it all work. Was this just the gut feeling that this wasn't it? Aha! And there lied the distinction. And so, on February 22nd, 2022, I officially surrendered my doctorate of naturopathic medicine. And on this day, it was no longer about fear and the gripping of safety nets. It was the biggest exhale I had taken to date. My heart felt so much peace. And along with this decision came wild clarity that I just wasn't meant to be a naturopathic doctor in a traditional sense, that I was to make my own definition of healer, one that suited a little bit better. And while I wasn't meant to stay in this amazing profession, I would never forget or regret all the things that I had learned. It was time to trust that I could make this work in my own way. And it was also time to redefine what success meant. And then I got the image of my mom, who's had many illnesses, especially multiple sclerosis. And she said to me, Emily, this training of yours, it saved my life. And so if this training saved the life of even one person, especially a loved family member, this made it entirely worthwhile. So if you are currently thinking of quitting, ask yourself, what lessons can I take from this chapter and apply it to the next chapter to see how incredibly worthwhile this journey has been? So success is not just about the amount of money in your bank account or the signature at the bottom of your email. It's about the skip in your step each day. It's about that one person's life that's been radically changed forever. It's about having the courage to say, this isn't for me. In my new role as mindset coach, I get to create, share, lead, and inspire. I wake up with fire and passion in my belly and feel peace and calm at the end of the day. Most importantly, I feel like me, and that is what matters the most. And so if you currently feel stuck on your journey, ask yourself, when is the last time I felt like me? For me, I got a flashback of working at a local department store at the makeup counter. It was Christmas Eve, and a lady came in with tears in her eyes. She immediately shared, my best friend of 50 years just passed away. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know who to call. I tried to find the perfect words. I'm so sorry, I said. What can I do? I suppose a little makeup wouldn't hurt, she said. She sat in my chair for hours, telling me stories of her and her best friend Polly across decades of friendship. We laughed, we cried, we connected. We talked about the meaning of life. I was so inspired. And so I can look back at a job like that and take clues about what felt so good, so light, so meaningful, so much like me, and look at times that I trusted myself. When you ask yourself, how do I want to feel every day? You just can't go wrong. So if you currently feel scared, don't worry. That makes you human. That makes you normal. But ask yourself, am I living my life for myself or to appease others? When you live every part of your life deeply and authentically from your heart, you will create a life of passion, love, and magic. If I could go back, I would say, Emily, you are way too scared. You are gripping those safety nets for dear life. And when you're only focused on what could go wrong, you don't even have the capacity to see what could go right. What could go amazing? What if you find your passion and inspire others to do the same? What if you release the nets and trust in your wings? Trust that they know how to take flight towards your wildest dreams. Know that even when you fall, because you will, that those wings will help guide you to a softer landing. If you currently have people on the advisory board of your life that just aren't guiding you to your best, remember, it is only you that gets to cast the final vote. Your dreams are possible. Your dreams are possible. Your dreams are possible. We just don't hear it enough. I hope you can look yourself in the mirror and say, I know I can do this, even if I'm scared, even if I'm alone, even if my foot shakes as I take my first step. The greatest joys of your whole life are on the other side of a commitment to taking a single mighty and brave first step, and knowing when it's time to quit. Thank you.